Salutations, fellow nerds. I'm Rick Y, and today is March 10th, 2025. I hope everybody had a great weekend. So, as to remind my viewers, I have some crazy scheduling going on right now with my wife being away on deployment, and I'm raising a little girl and holding down the fort back home. I got to make time for myself, and as much as I wanted to make videos this weekend, I had to hold back. Now, I can finally release some of this steam. A few things jostled my attention away from setting up this year's garden, and I figured we would play a little catch-up. So if you dig news, history, or humorous American hogwash, make sure to drop a poop emoji in the comments for me, and let's get at it. Also, my hat got pretty messed up while we were setting up the garden this year, so that's in the wash today. So if you're curious, that's what's underneath the lid, and you're just going to have to tolerate it today. First off, there is currently a surge in measles going around the country. As of this recording, there is 198 confirmed cases in Texas with one confirmed death. In New Mexico, there are now 30 reported cases and one confirmed fatality. Other reports from New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania have also started rolling in. The largest outbreak is in West Texas, which is also in a place where there is a large amount of vaccine hesitancy due to a religious opposition, as a large Mennonite community lives there and is currently the worst affected so far. Misinformation about vaccines has not only continued to spread, but actually exacerbate the damage and frequency. There is currently a large demand for it as it is spreading across the country, and the news is going around. I highly suggest getting a hold of your local clinic and seeing if you need a booster. As far as RFK and his irresponsible rhetoric over the years is concerned when it comes to vaccines and their efficacy and side effects, he's recently stated that you should probably now vaccinate against measles. Bear in mind, no pun intended, this known roadkill collector and intravenous drug user has no formal medical, scientific, nor public health education nor experience. Listen to the doctors on this one. Measles is both highly infectious and highly deadly with horrifying side effects, such as brain inflammation, pneumonia, or a long-term killer, which is called subacute sclerosing panencephalitis, which is a fatal brain disease that comes from having been infected by measles. In 2019, Samoa experienced a pretty crazy measles outbreak that killed 83 people, mostly children, after 2 children died because nurses mistook the vaccine for muscle relaxants led to hesitancy to vaccinate early on. In June of that year, RFK traveled to Samoa and spread lies and perpetrated unfounded claims that link the MMR vaccine to the infants who died due to medical negligence. His organization, the Children's Health Defense, which is an anti-vaccine group that began in 2016 by RFK himself, was a big part of that. Let's hope this new public suggestion for us to get vaccinated will be helpful. Another example of Trump cabinet officials meeting the consequences of their actions face to face, closet neckbeard and couch cushion enthusiast JD Vance was followed by protesters after his disastrous meeting with Zelensky and Trump, where they both berated an ally and only current defense against an imperialist Russia. They did this due to Zelensky having the audacity to stand for his nation and his people, or showing up in wartime attire. The protesters are enraged that they treated the Ukrainian president like that and also pulled support, funding, and intel away from Ukrainian authorities. Some Ukrainian military officials have also voiced concerns over yet-to-be-confirmed reports that Russia has received intelligence reports from the U.S. government in regards to Ukrainian positions. This weekend, a massive strike against multiple targets that Russia had previously been unaware of has occurred, as well as more strikes on populated cities and innocent civilians. After bravely turning and lying to the protesters, JD Loveseat chose to berate them online after having gone after his daughter. This didn't happen, of course, and the angered Americans clearly had their ire directed at JD, and they didn't chase him as he tried to claim. That actually happened at Vermont at the Sugarbush Resort, wherein he was actually chased by skiers, calling him a national disgrace and told him to ski in Russia. This is because they're trying to pull wool over your eyes and get a ceasefire with Russia in Ukraine. Since Ukraine knows that Russia always goes back on these ceasefires and deals, Zelensky is not accepting one without formal guarantees of safety and security for his country. He isn't saying no to ceasefires, and this war didn't start because of NATO. In fact, the only reason Ukraine wasn't a part of NATO is, again, because the United States didn't want to directly instigate a conflict with Russia. There is an actual effort by the Kremlin to twist the words and events of history that we all lived through. Don't allow yourself to become one of their mouthpieces. Zelensky isn't a dictator. Putin can end this war by withdrawing his troops at any time. It is literally that easy. There's no obligation for Ukraine to roll over for them, period. Full stop. Another fun point that was made over the weekend is it does appear as though Trump is expecting the opposite of his promises in the coming months and years. In an interview with Maria Bartiromo, Trump was actually faced with some questions in regards to the economic policies that he's implemented, albeit they were all pretty softball questions that she was obviously leading him through while offering answers that he was clearly struggling to come up with himself. When it comes to his tariffs, he finally admitted that there would be short-term economic issues for Americans as he applies or doesn't apply them. Who knows at this point? He also wasn't clear on how long these economic woes would go on for. When he was asked about the stock market, while it was of huge importance to him previously, he seemed much more hesitant to address the recent market losses and his policies. He tried to press the need to overemphasize short-term market fluctuations, which again is completely and entirely new for him. This is the complete opposite of his previous approaches to executive power and stocks. He also went on religiously about grocery prices, specifically eggs. Yet in a Newsweek report this past week, Trump was just saying, and I quote, "Shut up about egg prices." So again, this is a rules for thee, not for me administration. So when asked about recession in 2025, he said he didn't like to make predictions about things like that, which is so weird because since the dawn of his political career, Trump has used the threat of a looming recession to scare his supporters. In April of 2016, he warned of a recession that never happened. In 2020, he warned that if Biden was elected, there would be a recession, when in fact we experienced the greatest economic growth of any developed Western nation post-COVID. Then in March of 2024, Trump and his surrogates exploited the increase in prices to their benefit and again warned that if he was not elected, that we would experience economic downturns and recessions. Now the guy can't rule one out under his own term and just really isn't interested in talking about it. Again, I want to remind everyone that he's also giving massive tax cuts to the wealthy while telling us that we on the proletariat rungs of the ladder will have to experience some economic hardship in what he calls a period of transition. How long will this be? Who knows? But that's a sacrifice he is willing to make. If all of you are unfamiliar, I suggest reading 1984 and Animal Farm, both by George Orwell. Your vocabulary terms to look for are newspeak, doublethink, and thought crime. The pigs have taken over the farm, and looking at the recent town halls in Republican districts, even Boxer the Workhorse seems to have taken some notice. I worry the next move will be the construction of some great proverbial windmill that will help us maintain a vigorous labor class. As Ron Filipkowski of the Midas Touch pointed out the obvious game here. Step 1. This will be a golden age on day 1. Prices will come down and the economy will boom. 2. These policies won't cause a recession. We know what we're doing. 3. Okay, it will cause short-term pain, but it's for long-term good. And finally, step 4. This is Biden's recession. Promises, lies, admit a little truth, admit you'll have to break all of your promises, but it isn't your fault. It's the other guy who has zero governing power. Clearly, the Republicans have their Emmanuel Goldstein for the shortcomings they'll never admit to. Now, normally I enjoy taking the weekend off, but the administration has the news cycle in overdrive, so I may need to begin the weeks with little summaries like the one we did today. However, I do appreciate y'all hanging in there with me. Keep that momentum going in the comments or just by considering liking and subscribing. It goes a long way in building up the resistance that we're going to need in the years ahead. Beyond everything else, we need to stay informed. And I'm going to do my damnedest in helping that process. Thank you so much. Y'all come back now. You hear?